Hello, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. I am Felicia Martin, the Vice President of the Ncaa Eligibility Center, and also Interim Senior Vice President of Inclusion, Education, and Community Engagement. Throughout my career, I've made decisions that are student-athlete centric. I've always been a believer in the power of education, the importance of integrity, and opening the doors of opportunity when it comes to professional endeavors. Leaders must educate themselves through programs, strategic relationships, and career experiences. As a woman of color, I've found that the right exposure and strategic networking can be instrumental in progressing to executive-level leadership positions. We've created the Ncaa Leadership Collective to provide exposure for our industry's most talented minority administrators and coaches. The Ncaa Leadership Collective is a database that houses career profiles of ethnic minorities who are ready to step into major leadership roles. Qualified athletic administrators and coaches can create their professional profile in the collective and keep it up to date as they progress throughout their careers. Presidents, chancellors, conference commissioners, and athletic directors have access to each profile in the collective, so they can build a comprehensive list of candidates for opportunities within their respective organizations. I encourage people to visit ncaa.org/leadership-development to get more details on the Ncaa Leadership Collective. This is an incredible resource for our industry. Be well.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Tremaine Jackson. Tremaine is the head football coach at Colorado Mesa University. Greetings, Tremaine. Thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here, Ty, as always.
Now, I was at the AFCA from 03 to 17. And I think I might have been introduced to you through Van Malone years and years ago, right? When coaches like to say you were just a baby coach in the profession, right? You've been at Colorado Mesa for 2 years, been in the coaching profession for 16 years. So obviously, I don't know, either we knew each other or there's been a connection for you ever since, right? You started coaching. We're assistant coach at Texas State, Abilene Christian, among other places in those 16 years. And you just finished your 2021 first full season with a record of 8-2, which I think is excellent, man. Right off the bat, I wonder how that feels to you. You've been in the industry for a long time. You have mentors like Van Malone, who we both know you consider a mentor, and you learn from guys like that. And then you get your head coaching job, don't know how you're going to do it, but confident that you're going to do well. And you get your first full season, which is this 2021 season, because 2020 was a unique situation of its own. And you finish with the winning record, 8-2. I don't know where that goes down in terms of Colorado Mesa and wins in terms of a coach, but that's got to be an excellent thing up there.
Yeah, it was. Well, first of all, Ty, I met you before I ever had a coaching job.
Oh, really?
When I first met you, I was walking around with Van trying to just get introduced to everybody I could. And so you've actually known me my whole career.
Oh, okay.
After 14 years, getting the job 2 years ago and getting the head coaching job, going through that unique situation with COVID, like you talked about, and then jumping out, playing a 10-game full season, going 8-2, competing for a championship. We beat the number 3 team in the country. It's the first time Mesa has ever beat a top 5 team. We were right there. And so as now that we've had time to reflect and look back on it, man, it was special. Most guys that I know and most programs that I've been to, when you're taking over a program, you go 4-7. You go 2-8 instead of 8-2, just to try to change the culture. We were able to do it with a full recruiting class and just had a bunch of guys to buy in. So it was special. Definitely not. We want to do better than that, but for it to be my first full year, it was definitely special.
So I was at a school when we had a coaching change. Nick Saban left Michigan State and Bobby Williams took over, first black head coach in the Big Ten. We were all happy about that. And we had a pretty good first year, but we didn't have a winning record like you did. And we all wanted to see Bobby Williams succeed, but he was on staff already, right? But you come into the school, you're a new head coach, weren't on staff already, but I'm sure the players want to see you succeed and are happy when you do, because that means if you're succeeding, they're succeeding too. Tell me about the player expectations. When you first came in last year, right? We talked before the pandemic, had you on January 2020. You hadn't even addressed your players yet. And you go through that season and talk about the expectations the players had of you in terms of leading them to what success is on the field and off the field.
Yeah, so I remember that conversation at the convention and with you and Coach Caruso, and I remember him telling me, don't try to win all the games in the first meeting. And so I took that advice. I think Coach Lester from Western Michigan was there as well.
He was there
too. He gave me some really good advice. I took that advice, and I tried to set a foundation and an expectation when we walked in the door. And over time, the 8 weeks prior to COVID, we tried to really say, this is who we are, this is who we want to be, basically lay out the blueprint to our program. Then COVID hit, and that's all we had time to do. We didn't have time to play football. There was nobody touching each other. We were all on Zoom. So it really helped us continue to lay that blueprint of who we want to be, what we're about. And so that time really helped me. And from that, once we laid all that out, then it gave our players a true example of who we were as coaches and where our program was headed. And that, to me, contributed to the early success. The culture got laid because we couldn't do anything else but lay the culture. And so some guys made it with us. Some guys decided that it wasn't for them. But the guys that stayed, they wanted to see us be successful because all they had been hearing about is if they do things this way, we're going to be successful. And so that time helped us, and our players really bought in early.
Yeah, which is important. I wonder about, everything isn't always golden, right? In any role, but specifically a leadership role. And I wonder about some of the struggles, whether it be with players, which I'm sure you had to deal with some struggles with players, but on campus, getting the campus to buy in, the community, just where were some of the struggles in terms of being we'll just couch it all as kind of a first-year head coach, including the pandemic year and this year. Tell me about some of the struggles of that, that you've learned that you can reflect on.
I get asked that a lot, and so I've been able to put an analogy to it. So Colorado Mesa football is like a house that you're trying to flip. You buy this house, right? And you go, it's in a good location. It's real livable. I'm just going to buy it. I'm going to put my twist on it, and we're going to be able to put it on the market real soon. Then you get inside of it, and you want to tear down the floors and get a new sink and kitchen, and you find mold. You find water damage. And so then you start trying to construct a plan on how do you clean all this up in order to make the house better so we can put it back on the market. Well, COVID allowed us not to have to put that house back on the market so fast. We were able to really get in and gut it out. And the gutting out was getting the administration to buy into the vision of what we were doing. Mesa has 27 sports. Football is looked at as a sport, not the sport. And so where I'm from in Texas, that's all you do is play football. And so trying to get them to understand that football is life-changing and we can change 130 guys' lives at a time was challenging, but we ended up being successful in doing so. The community support you talk about, I'm the first Black head coach at Colorado Mesa in any sport. And then we hit a social injustice period. Well, all of that, along with me being Black, our team being the most diverse team on the Western Slope, we had to really go and have some hard conversations with our community to let them know that we're here to get an education. What you're seeing across the country is real, it's happening to us, and we shouldn't have to deal with that while we're here. That brought us together as a community. Having those courageous conversations, it made us Grand Junction's team. And so it was a lot of tough conversations. The stuff with players, Ty, it's going to happen. It's happening right now on every level. So we expect that. But I didn't expect to have to go sit down with the chief of police in town. I didn't expect to have to go to the mayor and to the city council and just talk about something that wasn't football that I deal with every day as a Black man. So all that stuff helped our program be where it is right now.
I wonder about this specifically when you talk about getting the administration to buy in. They hired you, so there's some semblance of you hired me to be here, so you already bought in a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as a coach, what I understand from talking to athletic directors and people who work in athletics, coaches are always going to ask for what I need to be successful. I need these 15 things to be successful, right? And the admin is going to be like, well, we can afford to give you the top 3. What are your top 3 of those 15 that you really need to, right? And so you got to figure that balance of what we need to be successful. And actually, AD is actually like that, right? It has a coach that is trying his or her best to be successful and knows what they need, although we can't give you everything. But I wonder about what it took to get them to understand the vision you were trying to create beyond just them putting you in the position, right? I am also a person to person, this relationship here, I need you to understand as a person what I'm trying to create here with the Colorado Mesa football program. Talk to me a little bit about that challenge as you were doing it, and it looks like it's done and it's an evolving situation.
Yeah, it's forever moving, and it's always trying to get better, but we're much better than what we were. And what that looked like was me just having a serious conversation about, hey, I'm more than a football coach. I want to build men. I want to change lives. I know that I said that in my interview, but everybody says that in the interview when they're trying to get the job. I'm really about that. The football piece is fine to me. I really like it, but here's how we make a difference in the world using the game of football. That was tough because it costs money to make a difference. And so it costs money to win. And so I came in here asking them for things that the last regime did not think they needed in order to be successful. So it was really uncomfortable on the front end because it was like, well, the last folks didn't need that and they won a couple of games. So why do you need that? And I was like, well, I'm trying to win the national championship along with trying to make sure these young men become contributors to our world. So it's twofold. This is why I need X, Y, and Z. And so we went round and round in a circle. And eventually, the president that we had at the time, he saw the vision, and our current president as well. He played football here. And so he really understands it. And so those fights were worth it. Sometimes I would ask, well, why'd y'all hire me? Because I said this in the interview. Like I told y'all what I was going to ask for. And we ended up coming to common ground. But it was definitely worth it because now I think we're on the move in the right direction.
Any strategy is a constant assessment of the strategy and as we execute the strategy. So you've asked for these things and you've shown success. But, we're successful, but we're going to need more to, to be even more successful. Tell me about, you got to keep revisiting those conversations and tell me how will you balance that? Because some people will be like, well, I gave you that and you guys won 8 games. Why can't you win that 10 next year? What we gave you last year, right? So tell me about that part.
I challenge them to be courageous. It's one thing about administrators at a higher ed institution. Sometimes you got to flip the education on them, in my opinion. I challenge them to not just be better, but be the best. And so, yeah, we won 8 games. If you give me $2 more $100,000, imagine what we're going to do. And so I always challenge them on that level by saying, hey, what you gave me was great. I'm appreciative of it. But if we got this, we really going to do something. And I think I've proven to you that we can get done what we need to get done, even if we didn't have that. But if we're trying to be elite, and I often walk around and I tell our administrators, you're either elite or you're not. And there's no gray area to being elite. You're either elite or you're not elite. So if we're striving to be elite, then I need X, Y, and Z because, boy, if we get that, and it's selling them a dream, Tai. It's constantly recruiting the administrators and doing that type of stuff. But it's also having the proof in the pudding with our kids graduating, with having a team GPA over 3.0. Everywhere they turn to where if I did say I needed something and they would go, well, what about your team GPA? It's over 3.0. You never had that. Everywhere they turn, we're doing things that's never been done. So it becomes a deal to, well, let's just give him what he wants because they're winning. They're winning off the field. They're doing community service. But we had to be right on our end. We had to have that plan on the front end to make sure we were doing what we say we were going to do.
Yeah. One thing I know about a well-purposed athletics department is that they operate under the purpose of enhancing the academic mission of the university, right? And doing that through providing a great student athlete experience, right? And so I wonder about the expectations that the athletics director and the administration put on you as a new head coach, and how are they evaluating those expectations beyond winning and beyond graduation? Or are winning on the field and graduation the thing that helps them as the leaders of the department enhance the academic mission of the university?
Well, it's funny you asked that, because I asked them once I got in and sat down. I did like a 30-day, here's my 30-day overview of what we need to be successful right when I got the job. And I said, what does success look like to you? I know we talked about this on the interview, but I've been here 30 days now. Really tell me exactly what success looks like to you. Everybody says they want to compete for championships, and everybody says they want to be successful. So once I asked them that, I then said, what are you willing to give to be successful? And so we sat down and we actually postponed the meeting and met 2 months later so everybody can have clear thoughts. We came up with, we want to consistently compete for championships. We want to have a team GPA of over 3.0, which was my input to the meeting. And then we want to keep the kids out of trouble. We don't want to have a trouble-ridden program. And I said, those are the three. Those are the three things that's how I'm being evaluated. And they agreed to that. And so from that, I went to work. We're gonna have we had only had a 2.6 GPA. That's the highest GPA we had in the program. Our first semester, we went 3.1. Our second semester, we went 3.0. Our third semester, we went 3.1. And so we hit that on the head every semester. We played an abbreviated season during COVID. We went 2-1. I went, I'm 66% coming out the gate. I told y'all if there was a championship, we'd be competing for it. And so, and then nobody got in trouble. Our kids took a lot of pride in not getting in trouble and not embarrassing our program. So we were able to have measurable goals that I sat down with them to come up with and say, hey, this is how I'm going to be evaluated. So the rules are clearly defined on both sides. When we do X, Y, and Z, then I'm going to ask you for this. And I was very clear with them on that, and it worked out for us.
Yeah. Here's what I wonder, right? And I'm going to pose this to you, and this is just a thought exercise, I guess, right? We hit these expectations that we had in this first meeting and how I'm going to be evaluated in the role that I am. And we hit those, knock them out the park. Would there ever be a case where let me pose more expectations to you? For example, attendance. Let me say that I'll make football one of the best attended sports on campus in history, history here, or something like that, right? Which again helps publicly show Colorado Mesa is a place to be, but also when you put away all the layers, it goes back to enhancing the academic mission of the university. And we're doing that by showing people what we do here and how we treat our student athletes and our students come to the game. Is that something that you could do in terms of stretching their expectations, or do you try to keep it at what they expect and you just under promise and over deliver? Like, talk to me a little bit about that in terms of thinking forward.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because that's on my, that second page on that sheet. That's on my second page, because some of those things that you mentioned, we were able to achieve. We sold out a game. We sold out homecoming for the first time in 20 years. And we did more community service than any program around. We ended up being fourth in the country in community service. Those are things that we were able to do. Social media. I always tease them around the office and say, I got more followers than the school, the athletic department, and any other coach in our hallway. But that brings exposure, and it's free exposure to our university. And so, yes, that's a conversation that's about to happen. With anything, you want to do the first set before you bring up another set, because that first set ain't going to go away. It's just going to add to what you bring up. So, I try to be careful what I add to. But those are things that we've already reached. So it's easy for me to say, and X, Y, and Z. One thing about the university, if you got proof, then they can't really say anything. And it brings dollars and visibility to the school. So like you said, they're all about enhancing that academic profile and just the visibility of the university.
Yeah, one thing along the lines of the same topic here, one thing that I think back at Michigan State that I should have did more of was, I don't know if we had control. I had control as an individual, but as a program, we just student athletes, but I should have went to more competitions, other sports competition. I remember going to like 2 women's basketball games and like 1 hockey game at Michigan State. But it seems like if the coaches, you're trying to build your program up and be successful, but also, like we said, those thinking progressively expectations on what I'm being evaluated on. If we can help raise the profile of the other sports on internally and externally, our kids going to their games, and then that brings other people coming to the games, whether students or the community going to other competitions for other sports. I wonder how that is that something that they'd see as a benefit? I don't know. That just came up into my mind as we were talking about creating new expectations that they're not putting on you, but you're putting on yourself.
Yeah, I don't know if they see that, but we do that. We live by a simple principle over here at Mason. Give and it'll be given back to you. We want people to come to our games. We got to go to their games. And if they don't come to our games, it's just better to give than to receive anyway. And that's how we go about it. We've got 27 sports. So whatever is our players' alternative sport, like everybody loves football, but if basketball is what you would have done, all these guys go, if I wasn't balling, I'd hoop. I'd do this.
I'll be running track.
I'd be running track. I'd be out there killing. So whatever that sport is for you, it's offered at Mesa. And so we encourage our guys to go support it, to the point to where if you want our 3-night study hall guys, you can go to this basketball game and get out of a night of study hall. We incentivize it just to go support our other sports. And so we think by doing that is being a good athletic citizen within our athletic community on campus. And so I don't know what our university thinks about it. I'm going to write that down since you said that and put that on my list. But definitely we do that. And we just do it because they come to our games and we all us as head coaches, we all try to support each other.
Yeah, which is excellent. I'll ask you a few questions here and then we'll wrap. The first one is about leadership. You're in the business of leading other assistant coaches now, right? They work with and for you. Football coaches to me is like, man, you're leading you got 110 or however many student athletes. They're probably most of them A personalities that come in looking a bunch of different directions about me, and you got to get them facing the same direction about us. And then you got these however many assistant coaches where it's like, all right, guys, I'm lead the troops here. And the only credibility you have right off the bat is that I'm the person that can hire and fire you. But you got to get beyond that to where you respect me as a leader. I respect you as a leader. Trust me, the vision I'm selling is going to take us to success. Tell me about learning how to do that. And that's a constant learning process, too, in terms of leading other people, full-time staffers, part-time, whatever the staffers are in terms of assistant coaches, right?
Yeah. So for me, Ty, I was, I didn't GAD 1. I didn't go get coffee. I GAD 2 and start coaching. And so what I said I was going to always do was I was going to be a servant leader. I was going to ask my coaches what they needed from me, more so than me just send all these directives. You go do this, you go do that, you go do this. When I hired these guys, I didn't hire them on the fact that they were going to do what I told them to do. I hired them because we were all about building men and letting football be the result, letting successful football be the result of how we go about preparing and building young men. So that was the common goal, right? So I figured we can get all the football stuff situated later on. In doing the football stuff and doing the workouts and doing the grunt work, I did some of it. I broke down film. I showed our GAs what I wanted done, how I wanted it done, but not just by telling them, I did it. And so you find out when people know that you'll do something and that you're not just sitting back on the high chair telling them what to do, they'll get right down elbow to elbow with you and start working. And so now I did that so much, our coaches really trust that I have their best interest in mind. Now they won't let me break down film. They're like, nah, coach, get out of here. I got this. When before I was like, oh yeah, man, this is how we break it down and we go here, because I was still wired from being an assistant, right? And so we just went about it that way. We went about it as trying to serve the coaches and not so much get the coaches to serve me. I didn't need to be served. I didn't know what it was like to be a head coach anyway. I just wanted to do it. And so our guys really bought in. One thing we talk about as the staff is how much we really love each other, which ain't common in a transactional profession right now, right? Everybody's always trying to get the next contract, the next job. I truly love these dudes, man. These dudes save me. There's some things that sometimes I don't know that they know that we end up getting the job done. I believe leadership is listening. And so we have a lot of conversation, and I listen. Our assistant head coach, I coached him in college. And so he knows me when I was young and crazy all the way to now. And he's able to say, hey, coach, here's what I think we need to do. And he knows that I'm probably more likely than not going to use that advice. But if I don't, he doesn't take it personal. He just knows I had something else in mind. So I learned to go do first. And it goes back to giving, and it'll be given back to you. Just, man, pour in the guys. Just like I pour in the players, I try to pour in the coaches. You've been in those rooms. There's sometimes some fear. Like, man, well, I wonder what coach going to think. I'm just going to sit over here and do this. I didn't want any of that. I wanted guys to be refreshed, be ready to go. And now our staff room is amazing. I take our staff over anybody.
Yeah, leading is listening. That's an excellent statement right there. I'll ask this last question and then we'll wrap here. You spoke at graduation just recently, right? And I mentioned to you offline that when I first joined the American Football Coaches Association, I asked a bunch of guys and I looked around and I didn't see the graduations I went to, either whether they were at Baylor or at other schools that I've known of. I didn't see many coaches at graduation. And that disappointed me. I'm like, if this is what we're talking about, we're here to educate these guys and graduate these guys, but the culmination of their experience at our school is graduation, and the coaches aren't at graduation. What is this? Now, that may have been limited exposure, right? Because my reach was only so far as a young graduate assistant, or even the first few years at the AFCA. But now, here I see pictures of coaches posting with graduates, and, they're involved in whether it be recruiting or not, right? They're still there. But you go and you speak at the graduation, right? And this is the entirety of the graduation for the university, which I think is a major thing for the head football coach to do, because there are parents, there are current students, there are students who are graduating, there's administration, faculty, everybody's at the graduation. Talk to me about that experience and give us just a brief overview of what you relayed to the people who are graduating.
Yeah, first of all, I didn't really know what I was getting into. The student government president asked me to speak, and I was like, yeah, man, anytime, I'll do that. And then as I started researching and watching film on commencement speakers, I was like, man, Denzel Washington had a good word. Chadwick Boseman, I got to come on with it. And so what I simply told him is I told him about 3 C's of life that I learned a long time ago. Being raised by my grandma, I learned these 3 C's, and it's the choices, the chances, and the courage. Every day everybody gets a choice. At some point, you're going to get a chance, and you better have the courage to work through all of that stuff. And so we shared that with them. It was really a blessing more for me. I hope they got something out of it, but I got a lot out of it by seeing the faces of the future, seeing the parents and the investors of higher ed. Those parents, man, it's $25,000 to go to Mesa. They've been here 4 or 5 years. These parents then donated $250,000 or whatever it is, $150,000 to Colorado Mesa, and for 1 hour, of joy, 1 hour of, I made it. Man, that's special. And so as a coach, I've always been to graduation because I said I was going to always be, when we hoist up the trophy, I was going to be there. So why wouldn't I be when he hoists up his trophy? That's the one thing that can't nobody take from him. We say that in recruiting. So when he gets that, when that player gets that, I want to be there for that moment, just like I'm there kissing trophies and wearing rings. So it was special for me, and never thought I'd be the guy to be the commencement speaker, especially not as the football coach, but it was an honor and it was special.
Yeah, well, which is excellent. And I'm sure Colorado Mesa was excited to have you speak to the graduates, but also to have you there as a leader on campus in the position of head football coach. Coach, this has been an excellent conversation. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Really good to be here, Ty, as always, man. I appreciate what you do.
That was Coach Tremaine Jackson. He's the head football coach at Colorado Mesa University. And of course, this is Ty Brown, with one question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.